Hello, Jim Payne. Welcome to the Doing CX Right show.
Thank you so much for having me. Glad to be here.
I'm excited about our conversation because it's a hot topic, and we're going to go deep into CX, AI, technology, and more. Before we do, can you tell the audience, who are you? What do you do professionally?
Yeah, absolutely. So my name is Jim Payne, Director of Product Marketing for Ring CX. That is the customer experience platform that we have at Ring Central. So I work with customers to make sure that everything is reflected properly on the roadmap, that we're building tools that are going to be relevant not just for them, but for their customers, really so it's transformational and not just something that we're plugging in just to do it, that kind of thing.
What's your passion around this? Why, of all the fields you could be in?
Yeah, it's a great question. And one of my first jobs was as a call center agent. So in college, worked in a call center. It's one of the ways I paid my way through school. So it's something that's near and dear to my heart. I've seen a lot of bad customer service, a lot of good customer service, a lot of bad tools, a lot of great tools. And just that experience kind of informs a lot about what I do. Just the challenges of being an agent, the challenges of that environment, they're always top of mind for me. So it's something I think about a lot. And if I had the tools that are available today and they'd been properly deployed, would have been a great job. Much easier, much more effective. Yeah.
I love that you are in the trenches because so many
Mhm.
people I talk to are speaking from what they read in a book,
Mhm.
not real hands on practical knowledge. So, this is going to be so informative. Before we go further, I have a question. It's my favorite question I ask everybody about you, which is where you are today.
Mhm.
Thinking about your 20-year-old self, based on what you know now that you didn't know then, what would you say to the younger Jim?
Oh wow. Yeah, I mean, get out and travel a little bit more. Go see more things. Go do more stuff, experience more stuff. I think I was very very cautious when I was when I was much younger, and it took me a while to get more out of my comfort zone and things like that. And now I'm glad that I've been able to do those things. But yeah, I would definitely tell myself to do that when I was a little bit younger.
I relate to that. I was holding on to railings at a really
Mhm.
at an age that people were flying.
Right. Yeah.
Oh, well, so speaking of letting go of railings and really putting ourselves out there in a important place that people are still trying to understand, and that is customer experience. When I talk about that, people have different definitions. What does doing customer experience right mean to you?
Yeah. To me, it's really just thinking about how, not just solving a customer's problem, right? That's one thing. That's everything we're trying to do. We're trying to make them happy. But sometimes, for me, the means justifies the end in a lot of ways for a customer, right? I might go through a lot of different steps as a consumer to get a problem solved. Let's say I need to return something, right? That can be very, very easy, or it can be very, very challenging. At the end of the day, I wound up returning the item. I got my money back, but did I do it in an easy way? Did it take a long time? Was it really simple? There are a million questions, right? Who did I talk to? Did I have to talk to multiple people? Sometimes I did. I mean, I think it's like a universal human experience to call your internet service provider, and just have someone say, hey, just restart your router. And I think, well, yeah, I've done that. And that's why I'm talking to you. And now maybe you get escalated a few times, right? It can be frustrating. Eventually, your internet comes back on, but the journey to getting the internet back on, ooh, that's the thing that I really want to think about. It's the actual journey itself, and then the points along that journey, and how can I build technology? How can I talk about things in a way? How can we design things to be well integrated? How can we ensure good extensibility between products to make sure the systems are communicating with one another? That for me is what it means. Really good customer experience. Not well, what we solved their problem, right? How did you solve it? How fast did you solve it? How did they feel when you solved it? That kind of thing. There are all these questions that are important. And I think it's cool to see the industry transforming in that way, just because I think for a long time, customer service just sort of viewed as a cost center, right? Just, I don't know, we just need these people to like answer questions and solve their problems, right? But no, it's not all about that. You can do that if you want, but if you really want to take it seriously and grow your business, that journey is immensely important, immensely.
Yeah, in fact, people pay more more
That's
for
right.
products and services that they love. There's a premium. So how could it be just a cost center when people are willing
Yeah.
to pay more and buy more and tell others, and oh, we could go on and on.
Yeah.
What gets in the way? We're talking about the journey, and we're all relating to the story you just demonstrated. Why? Why is it so hard?
Yeah. It's a great question. And I think for some folks, it can be systems not talking to one another. I personally see a lot of, customer service orgs deploying a lot of different point solutions just to try and solve. It's like, hey, we have problem A. We're going to deploy point solution 1 for problem A. And then we have problem B. And we're going to deploy point solution 2 for problem B. Those solutions may or may not actually work well together. And I'll give you a funny example. Like, this happens all the time, maybe with even a chatbot, right? Stacy, let's say you have a problem with something. You talk to a chatbot. The chatbot is saying, oh, okay, well, blah, 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 blah. You're working with the chatbot. You're fighting with it. It's not giving you what you need, right? Now you're frustrated. Now you're ticked. This is just a point solution. And it's like, hey, you need to call someone. Generates a number. Now you're calling someone. Talk to an agent. Maybe it's me. And I'm like, hey, Stacy, what's up? And you're like, well, what do you mean what's up? I've been talking about my issue for the last 6 minutes with this computer. And I'm just like, well, I don't know about any of that. I'm just here. It's like, why don't you tell me again? Terrible, terrible experience to have all these different point solutions that don't maintain context throughout. And maintaining context to me is a really big piece, because even that one thing, that one little thing, you might have a good solution that's a good chatbot. You might have a really great agent in me. But if we don't work together well, then it's all pointless. It all becomes meaningless. So that becomes very hard. And designing tools with that level of extensibility can be very, very difficult and very challenging. So, and selecting the right vendor who's going to say, okay, like all these things are going to talk to one another, or it's one comprehensive solution set that has that context. We even saw in the early days of digital transformation where folks were just thinking, oh, well, we have a live part and then we have a digital part. And it's like, great. But if they aren't one and the same in many ways, they can actually kind of be to one another's detriment, which we see all the time. And most of that is driven even by customer demand, right? We don't always know our customers. And we even see companies fall off, right? Think about e-commerce, Stacy. You and I were alive back in the day when if I wanted something and didn't have it at a store, how did we get it? We had to fill out a card and mail it in or call a fulfillment center so they could take the order, things like that. It's very different. Any company that didn't say, hey, we need to actually adopt e-commerce, I don't think they're still around, right? Because you have to adopt those things. And you can even go back to like manual pin setters, right? When was the last time you went bowling and there was a person down at the end stacking pins? It doesn't exist anymore, right? Because it's hard. That automation is hard. Building it right, doing it right is hard, but it's worth it because sometimes it's all in the name of your company thriving or even surviving in some cases.
When it comes to challenges, I've seen that different departments are going like they're finger pointing at other people
Yeah.
instead of really owning the customer experience.
Mhm.
Many times people are like, oh, that's the customer service department.
Mhm.
But I believe that actually everybody has the CX role. What
Yeah.
is your view, and how does that impact a unified experience?
Oh, I completely agree with you. I think everybody, it doesn't, even at Ring Central, I push that ideal, right? I don't care if you work in the legal department, right? What we do is in the service of our customers, so we want something that's going to make sense for them no matter your role. And it goes for consumer goods, you name it, right? And I think the example you gave is really, really great because it's something that I think about a lot where, let's say your executive team is looking at CSAT scores and they say, oh, these CSAT scores, no good. And now I'm going to go yell at whoever's running the customer. They're the people who talk to them, right? And okay, fine. But that's a very, very surface level view. But having a unified experience and having, some of the new tools that are coming out just from sentiment analysis and scoring and coaching that's all very scalable and efficient from artificial intelligence is very exciting because now you can even take unstructured data in a human conversation, give it structure through artificial intelligence without paying a bunch of people to sit there and do quality assurance scorecards and things like that. And you can actually understand, okay, from an analytical perspective, oh, well, let's look and see let's give that data structure now and say, okay, where are all of our worst customer satisfaction scores coming from? Is it coming from them being angry at a customer service agent? Is it coming from billing? Oh, wow. Now we know actually this might not even be a problem with the customer service agents. We might have a problem with our billing procedures. So now all of a sudden, all this really wonderful data can start to inform operational improvements across the board, as opposed to just saying, why are CSAT scores low? Why are they low? Why are they low? Train them, train them, train them, train them, right? Or just keep pointing the finger. That just becomes counterproductive. So having that solution that's going to give you that structure and make those insights a little bit more actionable, a little bit more trustworthy, right? And give you statistical significance as well, is really important too, because now you have a comprehensive data set where you can say, oh, we know every single call. Here's where our CSAT scores are. Here's where we can take a look and understand, all right, where do we actually need to improve? Is it the agent? Is it elsewhere?
Yes. So clearly, AI is making us more efficient, more smarter to be able to understand people's feelings and views and sentiments. I also think that it's an amazing vehicle to identify preventing risk. So if somebody says lawsuit, you know
Mm-hmm.
right away. That can't be like days later when somebody happens to be reading the feedback.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's a huge thing, right? You can get out ahead of stuff more so than you would have ordinarily, or like identify problems before they happen. That's really, really important.
Yeah. Now, in your product management role, I have to ask you, when I was working in one corporation and CX sat within new product development, which I thought was
Mhm.
genius, one of the roles. And we would get feedback early on before launching products, not just after the launch.
Mhm.
And it would be this iterative process. Some product managers really understood the value of being customer centric and walked the talk, and others felt, no, we don't have time for that. We've got a deadline, we've got a launch. So, what is your view on speed versus quality? Do you see that as a
Yeah.
paradox and a problem?
There are a lot of paradoxes in developing any kind of products, but we try to strike a balance between all of them, right? We always want to move fast, especially if we have a feature that's good, that's going to make a difference. You don't necessarily hold it back. But at the same time, we do have a very iterative process where we meet with customers. We have customer advisory boards, and they say, "Hey, here's what we're seeing. It'd be really nice if we could have X, Y, Z." We're even able to run that conceptually by other customers to say, "Hey, would this make sense for you as well?" And 9 times out of 10, the answer is yes. So then we're able to actually develop things relatively quickly, put a minimum viable product even in front of the customers very
Yes.
early, and say, "Hey, do you want to mess around with this? Like, hey, mess around with it. Tell us what you think." Right? That feedback is critical. We don't want to build products just for fun, right? We want to build it so people can use it. And I look at our product, our adoption dashboards every day. And if we have a feature that people aren't using necessarily, I'm going to think about that a lot. Where it's like, oh, what do we need to do? Is it a problem with the feature? Is it a problem? Have we just not communicated it well? Do we need to talk to our CSM team and say, hey, like, are people using this? Do you have what you need? A demo account? Can you show it to them? We think it can make a difference. That kind of thing is really, really important to me. I want people to use the stuff that we make, of course.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that's an important lesson for all solution providers. And that's customer centric right there.
Hmm.
So there's a lot to mimic in that regard. Let's go back to AI changing employee and customer experiences. What do you see as the hot trend and what's coming in the way of AI impacting our experiences?
Yeah. I think one of the bigger things is just assistance for agents. That's obviously, there are a lot of point solutions out there for that. There's a lot of work going on in that regard, just to say, not just to surface knowledge when an agent needs it. And I think, back to my time as an agent, if I got a question I didn't know, I didn't have a lot of recourse. I could maybe put them on mute and ask the people around me. I could maybe put them into a different queue and say, hey, I don't really know. Let me try and go find someone. I could push you into a different queue, something like that. Not a good experience for me, not a good experience for them. Now, with all the transcription happening, it can actually say, hey, this is what the customer is asking. We're maintaining a good knowledge base. Here is that information. Here's what you could say. So democratizing that institutional knowledge is really important. Being able to surface it in real time is equally important. So that I see as being a really, really big one. We're going to see a next generation of chatbots that are like really stellar. I hope to see them anyway, because I think it's really nice. For whatever reason, even myself as a person, I won't order a pizza if I have to pick up the phone and talk to somebody. I'm not sure why. It's just how I've evolved as a person. I'm like, I just have to, why can't I just like do this online? So I think that next generation of chatbots and things like that are fully integrated, fully omni-channel and maintaining context. Even, we have these at Ring Central, but I think we'll see even more of that stuff coming out, which is really exciting. And I've even interacted with a few that, changing a flight through a third party. It's funny how much this stands out in my mind because normally a chatbot experience is not that great. And I had to change a flight through some third party vendor. I don't remember who it was. And I literally just talked in human language and it spoke back to me and said, hey, like, here's some options for you. What do you want? Is this good? And I said, yeah. And it just handled it for me in under a minute. And that was amazing. I was like, cool. And I think we're going to see more and more development happening on that, on that front too, where that experience is going to get a lot better for customers.
I think I saw the stat over 46% of companies are using Gen AI for customer interactions. Do you think that's high, low? What's your view?
I think those numbers can be interesting. I think using it, sure. Using it in a hyper meaningful way that makes, a difference for customers. I imagine the number there is much, much lower. Everyone's toying around with stuff. Even my parents who work in education, right? They didn't care about AI at all until ChatGPT rolled out, and now all of a sudden it's something they think about all the time. Is discerning original thought versus something that's been generated. So everybody's playing with it. There are all these different applications that you can use, even for customers. So yeah, I think the number is probably accurate, but whether or not they're using it in a meaningful way, that I question.
Mm-hmm. So if a company listening is not using AI at all, they're thinking about it, but they want to test, they don't want to be lost and be behind. What's your advice to them? Where do they start?
Yeah, my goodness. I mean, the biggest thing is if you're going to do a big AI deployment, probably you want something that's comprehensive, right? You don't want to open up the chest cavity and then just like put a Band-Aid in there, right? And we talk to CIOs all the time, when I'm at conferences or things like that. We're like, it sucks because we just deployed a new solution a couple of years ago, but it's not really with the times anymore. And now it's going to suck to have to go back to the table again. But the more innovative ones who are thinking, hey, this is what we need to do for the best of the company, like they're doing it, which is kind of cool to see. I think bolting a bunch of stuff on is generally the wrong approach because it's just before you know it, you're going to create more problems. You're going to have Frankenstein's monster of weird tech solutions, which is really tough to manage and tough to use. So I think that's generally step one. Make sure you have a solution that's even going to do the basics well, right? Those basics don't go away. Make sure of that. Make sure you have something comprehensive. Make sure it's innovative. Make sure it's scalable. The compute power to do a lot of generative AI stuff is very, very expensive, very tough. So a lot of point solutions that we see out there, I really question the scale. Can they actually do it at scale for, a larger company that maybe has millions and millions of interactions going through their system at any given point? You need to have that there, right? There can't be, caps or anything like that. You need to have it working at all times. So that's going to be a big one as well. And then lastly, try it. Any company that won't let you try anything, I would maybe question that. That is always a big red flag for me. Just like, no, do a test account, right? Like play with it a little bit. Make sure that it actually works the way you think or see or get an idea, get a feel for it.
For people listening, they may not understand what you mean by point solutions. Can you clarify that?
Sure. So you might have an ancient on-prem contact center, provider, right? You might even have service contracts through these different companies, stuff like that. They have to do all your moves, adds, changes, deletes, et cetera. And then you might say, hey, we want a chatbot. We're getting too many calls. We don't want to hire anybody else. We want to deflect some of these calls. So then you just pick a completely different company and then you try and just tack it on to your existing on-prem solution. Going to be very, very hard to actually integrate those things. You have knowledge bases that aren't talking to one another. It's going to be expensive to integrate. And then in all likelihood, they will just wind up functioning as standalone things in silos, like technological silos, both designed to solve the same problem, and not communicating with one another at all. So that is what I mean by point solution is, hey, we have this one problem and we are going to find a different technology to solve this one problem. And then over here, over here. So then too many vendors, too expensive, too cumbersome, not even good for the customer.
Oh, human silos and data silos can be its own episode, but we don't have enough time for that.
Yeah, indeed.
So I can't help because of the timing of us
Yeah.
talking that there's a global technology challenge happening right now.
Mhm.
What's your perspective on it all? I mean, I don't even know
Mhm.
how to unpack this.
I'm a very easygoing person, and I'm a millennial. Technology is my first language, so in many ways, I look at that and I think technology is not perfect. No technology is. Even for a company like RingCentral, delivering 5 nines of uptime plus for such a long time, that's really hard. But that doesn't mean everything is flawless. Nothing is flawless. Everything is becoming more interconnected, and all of these dependencies are on one another. So it's a bummer. It's unfortunate. Like, it happens. And my hope is that as humans, we can look at that and say, hey, you know what? Humans aren't perfect. We are the ones who build technology. Technology is not perfect. We kind of have
Yeah.
to roll with the punches in some ways. Nobody can beat physics, right? It's not yet, anyway, not that I've seen. And sometimes things will happen. Servers might fail. Things break. Like, stuff happens. And then all those connections break. And now all of a sudden, you've got a big problem on your hands. And it just sucks. And sometimes that's the only attitude you can have, right?
Yeah, like I said, no one can beat physics. that's
Hmm.
that's quotable. And I think there's a lesson here that when we're talking about silos, how essential it is for all the departments to come together and be able to say, okay, here's what we're going to communicate. Here's what we're going to do as contingency planning. Right? There's a
Hmm.
lot of lessons here that also not all cases does the AI and technology replace humans. So we've got to
Hmm.
merge together.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, people are such an important part of all of this, right? It's supposed to make us better. I can't imagine you having this conversation about an AI, with an AI, right? Things like that. That'd be
Yeah.
probably wouldn't happen. Wouldn't be very interesting in any way. A person is interesting. An AI is not. In the same way, a person is creative. An AI is not that creative or anything. So, yeah, critical to have people intervening, making the most of it, doing, making sure it's behaving properly. It's got the right information. That it's surfacing the right information. Things like that. You can't beat that. So I think it's making us better, but it's not gonna destroy the world or anything like that.
No. However, I think the key takeaway is that how important communication is. And the people
Mhm.
stuck at the airports or hospitals right now, that leaders are actually helping them know what to say to customers in
Mhm.
this very moment. That's essential.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Even though it's easy for me to sit here, it's not really affecting me in any way to say like, hey, it's fine. You just got to deal with it. But like, it's having a material impact, and technology going down can have a material impact on real people, and that sucks. So now all of a sudden, you need that empathy. You need people to work creatively with somebody to solve a problem in a way that maybe we've never solved it before. So yeah, that empathy is huge too, to make people feel good, feel reassured. Like, hey, you don't want to miss your kid's college graduation or whatever. Like, I totally understand. Like, here's what we do have the power to do. Here's what we don't. And it's just like, how can we figure this out together? Is really big.
Absolutely. Well, as we're getting to the end, I have two more questions. One is leadership. So, as we just brought up about communication and helping the front line tell the customers, how to ease their pain in the
Mhm.
moment, what does leadership, where does that come in terms of, let me say it differently, advice? What is the
Mm.
best advice you have been given or received?
Oh, the best advice I've been given or received: listen more than you speak. Is has always been a big thing. Ironic for me to say that here, where I'm supposed to be talking a bunch. But, for the most part, I think that helps us connect as humans in a better way. I like giving people the benefit of the doubt all the time. Who knows what kind of day they're having, right? Like you really don't know. And it can be up to me to just react the way I want to react, but not let my feelings get in the driver's seat, right? And say, okay, let's think about this for a second, and then react and speak. Has been a big thing. My father was a very thoughtful, quiet man. Somehow he had the world's loudest son in me, who I never stopped talking, but he always wanted me to listen more than I spoke.
Really good advice. And what's the one key takeaway you want people to remember listening?
Yeah, absolutely. Is have courage. I know deploying new technology is scary. It sucks. Have courage. Don't worry. Trust people. Like there are really good, consultative folks out there. Like I'm happy to answer any questions for anybody if they have them. I want people to do good by their customers because I am a customer of a lot of even our customers at Ring Central. It's like
Yeah.
I believe in this technology. I want them to use it because it's going to make my life better as a customer of theirs. So, yeah, have the courage to look. Don't assume that what you're doing today is always going to be the best thing. Like times are
Mm.
moving fast, and we all have to move fast in order to keep with the times and keep pace.
Excellent, because it's not going away. And so we have to
Uh-huh.
embrace the technology, continue the conversations, learn from each other. And as we talked about, it's not perfect,
Mhm.
yet, yet what is, right?
That's right.
What is? So I think the tolerance and the patience as we're all learning together is incredibly important and we cannot hide away.
Absolutely. Totally agree.
Well, thank you so much for being on my show, and I will have in the show notes the best ways to reach you, and more about Ring Central. So, thank you.
Thank you, Stacy.